Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Perkenalkan, nama saya Selfi dengan NIM 221292225. Kali ini akan membuat video sebuah praktek membaca artikel dalam bahasa Inggris untuk memenuhi tugas mata kuliah Dasar-Dasar Komunikasi dan Public Speaking yang diampu oleh Ibu Dr. Salmaini S. SPD MSI dengan judul Development of Discovery Learning-Based Teaching Materials to Improve Students' Critical Thinking Abilities in the Curriculum Merdeka in Class 5 of Elementary Schools. Introduction. Basic education is the initial education for every child, while formal and informal, which takes place from around 3 years of age to with at least 12 to 15 years of age. Basic education is a passport that individuals really need to live and able to choose what they do, take part in building a future society collectively and continuously learning. Basic education is the lowest level of education in the national education system as stipulated in Law Number 20 of 2003 concerning the national education system. Basic education can develop attitudes and abilities, provide the basic abilities and skills needed to prepare students for further education. Education is a process in order to influence students so that they can adapt as best as possible to their environment and thereby bring about change in themselves that enable them to function strongly in society. In the world of education, there are many components that support the continuity of education, one of which is the curriculum. The curriculum is defined as a program that is facilitated to support students. The program referred to in this case is a learning process. Meanwhile, according to Law Number 20 of 2003 concerning the national education system, the curriculum is a set of plans and arrangements regarding objectives, content and learning materials, as well as methods used as guidelines for implementing learning activities to achieve educational goals. So it can be concluded that the curriculum is a learning tool that acts as a reference in carrying out the learning process in accordance with the expected educational goals. As time goes by, it cannot be denied that the curriculum enforced in Indonesia will continue to undergo change to make it more adaptive to the demands of the times. As is currently happening, a new curriculum has been launched which is designed not only to meet educational goals, but to be more adaptive to increasingly rapid developments and the curriculum inclusion in the Curriculum Merdeka. One of the learning resources that can be used in learning with the Curriculum Merdeka approach is models. A model in this context is a learning unit designed in a structured and modular manner where students can study independently or in small groups according to their respective learning rhythms. According to Amina, in 2023, models in the Merdeka curriculum are learning resources designed to provide comprehensive guidance to students in independent or group study with a focus on flexibility and freedom in exploring the material. Teachers play a key role in this process by providing initial guidance, facilitating discussion and problem solving, and providing meaningful feedback to move students toward deeper understanding. They are also responsible for ensuring that the modules are well designed according to curriculum needs and student potential according so as to increase student motivation and interest in learning through meaningful and student-centered learning experiences. The role of teachers is very much needed to motivate students' enthusiasm for learning, because teachers are seen as people who know a lot about learning conditions and also the learning problems faced by students. Critical thinking is very useful for fifth grade students because, from the age point of view, students have entered the stage of concrete thinking development. This development comes not only from external factors but also internal factors because students experience continuous change. The brain is a thinking organ that develops through a repetitive learning process and interacts with the world through perception and action. Therefore, critical thinking skills for Class 5 students are expected to be more concrete. The problem that occurs is that students are less enthusiastic about taking science subjects because most of them experience a lack of motivation in learning. Apart from that, the lack of innovation from teachers in delivering material through lectures and presentations is also an influencing factor. Insufficient support from parents for the development of good social attitudes and its impact on students' interest in learning has shown significant findings. Problems that occur require immediate problem-solving action. One effort that can be made is to develop appropriate, interesting, and effective learning strategies so that they can improve teacher skills, student activities, and student learning outcomes, namely by using discovery learning, or we can say DL, based model development. DL is a learning strategy that tends to encourage students to be actively involved in the process of discovering or exploring new concepts through direct experience. This approach emphasizes independent learning, where students are welcome to explore, observe, and face challenges in discovering new knowledge. By giving students the freedom to discover for themselves, DL not only improves their understanding of the material, but also develops critical skills such as problem solving, analysis, and synthesis. Through this model, students are invited to discover for themselves what they have learned and then construct that knowledge by knowing its meaning. In this model, the teacher is only a facilitator. According to Selfi et al. In 2022, discovery learning is useful in increasing students' intellectual potential, moving away from giving extrinsic rewards, holistic learning through the discovery process, and a tool for training memory. Critical thinking skills are a competency that must be trained in students because this ability is very necessary in the learning process and in life. Critical thinking skills are also defined as students' ability to analyze arguments, make conclusions based on reasoning, assess or evaluate, and make decisions or solve problems. Critical thinking skills are an important aspect that needs to be improved through the learning process at school. Learning activities do not only rely on the role of the teacher, but are also designed to help students develop thinking skills and problem solving skills, as well as preparing them to become independent individuals. This process allows students to gain in-depth knowledge, which in turn can improve their ability to solve problems with more empathy, use critical thinking approaches, and produce various creative and effective solutions. One effective strategy to improve students' critical thinking is to use discover learning-based teaching materials. This model allows students to learn independently and exploratively, helping them overcome complex problems. Educators need to have the right tools to train students' critical thinking skills, and Discovery Learning provides a good platform for the purpose. In this learning model, students participate in group learning that allows them to discuss, express opinions, and explore various points of view. This encourages students to develop critical thinking skills in a more structured and sustainable way in the context of teaching and learning activities. Method. This type of research is a type of development research research and development, which is oriented towards products developed in the field of education, which aims to increase the effectiveness and understanding of students' material in learning and the results. The development steps adapted according to the AT model can be described by figure 1. It's begin with analysis, and then design, development, evaluation, feedback and interaction, and for the last is the implementation. Trial design. Product trials are intended to test the feasibility of learning media developed based on material aspects, model aspects, and user assessments. There are two stages in product testing to determine the level of suitability of learning media, namely expert validation and user testing. Expert validation. Expert validation aims to determine the level of feasibility of discovery learning-based teaching media, which was developed based on teaching materials, language, design, and technology aspects. The feasibility test is carried out by showing the discovery learning-based teaching materials being developed along with a number of assessment questionnaires which will be filled out by material and media experts to assess whether the teaching materials are suitable or not along with suggestions and criticism that can be used as improvements in developing discovery learning-based teaching materials. And then, test use. The use trial is intended to determine the level of suitability of discovery learning-based learning media for users. The discovery learning-based teaching materials developed are used as teaching materials for teachers and students in the learning process. Teachers and students then fill out an assessment questionnaire after the learning process ends to assess the level of usefulness of the discovery learning-based teaching materials development. Data analysis techniques. This research utilizes quantitative and qualitative analysis approaches to gain a comprehensive understanding of the effectiveness of learning models. Quantitative data was obtained through validation results from experts as well as practically assessments involving students and teachers, which were analyzed using a Likert scale to measure the level of validity and practicality of the model. In addition, qualitative data was collected through evaluating students pre-test and post-test test scores, which allows researchers to assess changes in the students' understanding and skills before and after using the module. To systematically measure product effectiveness, this research applies a pre-test post-test control group design, which compares test results between groups that use the model and a control group that does not use the model. This approach provides us a clear picture of the impact of the model on improving students' abilities as well as the validity and effectiveness of the model in real educational context. And next, for the results and discussion. Expert validation result. The Discover learning-based model developed has been comprehensively evaluated from various important aspects, namely material, language, and media. The result of this validation process show that the model meets the standards set in these three aspects. Material evaluation ensures that the content presented is relevant and appropriate to learning needs, while language assessment assesses the readability and clarity of information delivery. The media aspect involves evaluating the quality of the media used in the model. A summary of the validation results from these three aspects can be seen in the table 1. We can see that the format score of validity is 22, learning activities is 44, language is 10, total score 76, maximum score 85, total score 76, average percentage validity is 89, and for the validity category is very valid. Based on the data list in the table, the result of the validation assessment by validators show an average total score of 89%, which is within the qualification of very valid. This score reflects that the Merdeka curriculum teaching materials have been assessed very well by experts, indicating that the materials meet high-quality standards in various aspects. This highly valid assessment indicates that the teaching materials are not only accurate and relevant but also presented in an effective way and in accordance with curriculum needs. With this result, it can be concluded that the Curriculum Merdeka teaching materials are ready for widespread use, providing a strong basis for successful implementation in the field. Validation carried out by material experts, language experts, and media experts provides a comprehensive picture of the quality and feasibility of the model being developed. The assessments from these three experts cover various important aspects that ensures that the model is not only relevant and accurate in content, but also developed in clear language and um, effective media. The results of each validation show that the model meets the established criteria in all dimensions, with material experts and language experts providing highly valid assessments, while media experts provide valid scores. Overall, this evaluation confirms that the model has been evaluated comprehensively and declared ready to be tested in the field. The result of the validator can be seen as a whole in Figure 1, which is Curriculum Merdeka teaching materials got 88.0. And next, for the model particularity, the result. After validating the model, the next stage is testing the model. Trials were carried out to obtain direct input in the form of responses from students as the target users of the model, which is in SDN 18.5 Kota Timur got 88.96 and SDN 015 Kota Timur got 86.46. The diagram provides as a comparison of the trial results between the two schools, offering a comprehensive visual picture of the practicality and acceptability of discovery learning-based models at each school. With this visualization, we can easily assess the extent to which the model was accepted and implemented actively in both schools, as well as see the difference in user experience. And next, for the evaluation stage. The evaluation stage in this research consists of three main steps designed to assess the overall effectiveness of the product being developed. The first step is carrying out a pretest, which aims to measure students' initial level of knowledge before the learning process begins, thereby providing a basic picture of their understanding. The second step is implementing a post-test, which is carried out after the learning process to assess change in students' understanding and skills, as well as measuring the extent to which the model contributes to improve critical thinking abilities. To systematically evaluate product effectiveness, this research used a pretest post-test control group design. This design allows researchers to compare the pretest and post-test results between the group that used the model and the control group that did not use the model, thus providing clear and measurable data about the impact of the model on improving students' critical thinking skills. With this approach, research can be accurately assess the effectiveness of models and provide deep insight into their contribution to the learning process. Descriptions of the pretest data and post-test data for the two sample groups are briefly summarized in the following table, which is the pretest for the experiment control. From the results of the pretest and post-test analysis, The experimental group showed significant improvement compared to the control group. In the pretest, the average score of the experimental group was 59.0 with a standard deviation of 12.45, while the control group had an average of 46.8 with a standard deviation of 10.94. After treatment, the average score of the experimental group increased to 74.1 with a fixed standard deviation of 12.45, while the control group only increased to 51.4 with a fixed standard deviation of 10.94. The increase in the average score from pretest to posttest in the experimental group, which is 50.1, was much greater than that in the control group, which is 4.6, indicating that the treatment in the experimental group was more effective in improving results. Although the range of scores on the pretest and posttest was consistent across the two groups, the difference in mean improvement indicated a positive impact of the experimental treatment. The findings on this research are in line with the result of previous research conducted by Trendini et 2021, concluding that model development was feasible, effective, and students respond well to the use of the model. Apart from that, it can also improve students' computational thinking skills, obtaining an average endgame score of 0.66 in the medium category. This is in line with research by Kashatillah and Osman in 2019, concluding that the CTS model has good validity, improves computational thinking skills, and can help students master learning objectives. Further research conducted by Shah and Anistiasari in 2020 concludes that using the sketch model can improve learning outcomes and students' computational thinking skills are good. And for the last is conclusion. This research produces a product, namely Discover Learning-based teaching materials which were developed using the AD development design. Development of Discover Learning-based science and science teaching materials can be declared valid, practical, and effective. The validity test of the Curriculum Merdeka teaching model obtained an average of 89%, which we can say very valid. The material expert validator obtained a result of 90.6%, very valid. The result of the language expert was 93.3%, very valid, and the result of the media expert was 85% valid. Practicality of the model carried out by educators and students. Individual trials on 8 students at SDN 185 Koto Timur and 8 students at SDN 015 Koto Timur produced an average total score of 88.96% and 86.46%, which were categorized as very practical. In small group trials with 10 students in each school, the average scores reached 93.17% and 88.17%, also in the very practical category. Limited group trials with 15 students in each school showed average scores of 92.11% and 91.67%, remaining in the very practical category. This result confirmed that the model was well received and shows consistent practically across different groups of learners, proving its effectiveness and usefulness as a learning aid. The effectiveness of the model developed using pretest and post-test analysis shows that the experimental group experienced significant improvement compared to the control group. The average score of the experimental group rose from 59.0 on the pretest to 74.1 on the posttest, while the control group only rose from 46.8 to 51.4. The increase in the average score of the experimental group was much greater than that of the control group, indicating that the experimental treatment was more effective in improving students' critical thinking. The range of values was consistent in both groups, but the difference in mean improvements confirmed the positive impact of the experimental treatment. Baik, sekian yang dapat saya sampaikan. Apabila ada perkataan yang kurang berkenan, mohon dimaafkan. Saya akhiri dengan Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih.